What we become depends on what our fathers teach us at odd moments when they aren't trying to teach us. We are formed by little scraps of wisdom. Umberto Eco, medievalist, philosopher, semiotician, novelist, cultural critic, and political and social commentator. All right. Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. If you're tuning in live, thank you so much for giving me your time so early. Hey, do me a favor, folks. If you enjoy the show, be sure to like and subscribe my channel. And for the really serious out there, hit that bell so you never miss an episode. You know what? It is Friday and it is time for another episode of Dad Talk, where I bring on everyday dads to talk about whatever is important to them. The goal of Dad Talk is to raise dad voices. And my only ask is that whatever we talk about is related to raising their kids and obviously keeping it family friendly. Today, Josh Hlavka, one day I will get this name right, Josh Hlavka joins me this morning to discuss balancing life as a parent. Please welcome Josh to the show. Good morning, Josh. How are
Good
you?
good morning, DL. I swear you do that on purpose to put a smile on my face every
I,
time.
I am telling you, for some, we're in the middle of teaching my kid to read. He's learning to read right now, and I feel like how can I teach him to read when I can't even like read myself? Apparently, like I get so
You know,
stumbled by a simple name. And it's funny when I practice it on the side, 'cause I'm like, I'm gonna get this right. I'm gonna get this right. I'm like, all right, I got it. And in my mind, I'm like, I can hear myself saying it correctly. And then just all of a sudden, letters start
red light comes on.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. One day, maybe the 17th time you're on the show, right? For whatever it is that you're going to be on
But
in the future, maybe then I will get it right.
I'll start the pool there, DL.
All right. All right. So we're going to talk about balancing life balance. That's all the rage today, right? Like people talk
Mhm.
about life balance, and like how much should you work and should you work 90 hours a week, and maybe get a couple of hours of sleep every once in a while. Should you not, whatever, and, I've seen over the years, I've seen different arguments for one thing or another, like, oh, you're a young person, you should work 100 hours a week, all this good stuff. Right? Hell, I mean, even Matt Walsh the other day came out and told everybody that they should not take sick days because he made fun of people if their quote tummy hurt, and that you should never take a sick day. So there's all kind of crazy advice out there, but you're the dad that's going to tell us about proper life balance. So tell us about yourself as a dad first. Introduce yourself.
Well, my name's Josh Hlavka, as you guys already know here. I am the chair for the Libertarian Party of Florida. I'm also a candidate running for Florida State House out here in District 105. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a working dad, so I'm putting in some hours for the business. But
Mhm.
that's a little about me. I own a couple dogs. Live down in Southeast Florida. For those who are unfamiliar with me, I do a little podcasting, so I got my fingers in a lot of pies, so to speak.
So what kind of podcasting do you do? Are you also one of those political junkies?
Kinda. We do kind of like you, DL, some
Mhm.
politics, some culture, some economics, a little bit of what's going on in the world. It's a lot of current event type of stuff there, but we try to keep it as relevant as we can for the times.
Got it. And how do people find you if they want to hear your podcast?
Oh, check us out on the Swampcast Network, Swamp Creatures podcast. We're on YouTube, Twitter, Rumble, X. I pretty much think anywhere you can find a podcast or a stream, you will probably find us there.
Awesome. That sounds great. And you have, as a dad, you have what, one child? Is that correct?
One for right now.
Okay. Oh, one for right now. Okay. So there,
For
there
right
might be
now.
a plan. There might be a plan for a second or third or maybe seven. Who knows?
As someone once said, more to come.
Right, right. I think we're sticking with one, but we might adopt or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the future holds. No promises that he will remain an only child. So we're only child dads. So let's talk about life balance. Uh, what kind of things do you do that balance out your life and keep you level headed and ready to go on all fronts?
I mean, biggest thing is just kind of prioritizing what's important in
Hmm.
life here. So, I mean, with me is I kind of, with the amount of hours I work, because I have a job where I'm generally between actual working hours and commute, I'm out of the house maybe like 55 to 65 hours a week.
Okay.
So, it's kind of focusing in those limited amount of times the opportunity to spend time and actually be with my family participating. So whether it's my kid wanting to sit and play with dinosaurs or to
Hmm.
build or, hey, let me show you how to play Roblox, dad.
Right.
These are things like I kind of try to make a priority since, spending a lot of time at work. I have a lot of volunteer stuff that I do as well, obviously. So,
Hmm.
it's really just kind of focusing on, okay, those times where I am home and I can dedicate myself that, I'm actually participating and not just sitting on my phone. A lot of people maybe have noticed my social media activity maybe over the last couple months has kind of taken a decline. That's, part of that has been refocusing my prioritization on spending time with family and not being so focused on you, screens, for lack of better words.
Right. Right. So basically, your family life is going up and your social media credit score is going down, right? Your
Yeah,
social credit score is just tanking,
it,
right?
I might not be able to go get gas soon at the gas station there, DL. I'm a little nervous, but you see it a lot within our community, so to speak, where we have a lot of people who have I don't want to say prioritize screen time, but they
Mhm,
they do have a lot of screen time. I would say an above average amount there, probably if we look comparatively,
mhm.
and that is something I just don't want, and I don't want to make that an example for my child. Like we're a low screen time household here with my kid, and I get a lot of compliments on, wow, he's really well behaved. He doesn't, my kid would be freaking out right now. Like, we were just at a wedding and he was the only child. And, everybody was just like, oh my God, I can't believe he's been so quiet. He sat there the whole
Right,
time. He's been really polite. And I'm just like, it's screen time. You got to limit the screen time. So even
right.
for adults, you got to limit your screen time.
Let's
It's
hold on the
not good
brakes
for you.
there, son. No, I agree actually, and it's funny because, how old is your child? Remind me again. I
Uh, my son is 6 years old.
6. Okay, so about a year older than my son, maybe a little bit less. And here's what I've noticed when it comes to screen time. It and this is just an observation that I think is happening. I cannot like it's not like scientific, okay? It's just an observation. And it seems like there are times so we limit screen time as well. And there's sometimes like come Friday or Saturday, my son's like, "Dad, I haven't watched any TV or, any YouTube or, played any video games all week." And I'll be like, "Wow, doesn't sound like a bad week to me, son." And that's his way of saying like, "What's up? Can I get some screen time?" And so for the most part, he's pretty limited on it, but every now and then he gets an extra amount for whatever reason, right? And it seems to me that I feel like I've noticed that when he gets a little extra, and I mean like an hour and a half or something like that, especially in one sitting, it seems like his behavior changes in the next day. Like, it just seems like there's a difference, and not in a good way, right? Like, he's a little
Mm.
bit less patient with things, a little bit more, almost like he's tired or hangry or something like that. And so for I kind of deem this like his withdrawal period, and it's weird because I'm like, it's not like he's had regular like, we're not talking like, okay, Monday through Friday, every single day, he had an hour and a half. We're talking about like maybe he had just a small amount throughout the week. And then for whatever reason, things were happening and we were really busy and we couldn't give him the attention or help him focus, or he was bored with his toys or whatever. And so he ended up getting a lot. Have you ever noticed anything like that? Or are you guys pretty consistent about your screen time as well?
No, we absolutely noticed it there, and it was actually kind of ironically, me and my wife were having a conversation on the topic of like how like new school cartoons compared to cartoons when we were growing up in the like early mid '90s are just so much worse for kids because they're showing studies now that they're so busy and there's so much going on that it
Mhm.
just overstimulates kids' brains. Like when we were growing up, DL, the cartoons were probably similar to when I was growing up. There was a lot of static background. It's the
Mhm.
same with video games. It was a lot of like static background, and
Mhm.
you just had very little movement, so it wasn't super stimulating.
Right.
So, I mean, I definitely see it with my kid. He spends all day on the Xbox playing Minecraft or Roblox. The next day, he's like a little tyrant just running around thinking
Mhm.
he's in charge of the house now.
Right. Yeah. So, and I was, when I started observing that, I was like, all right, we're going to put a stop to this. And for the most part, I mean, it's not like it was something that happened on the regular. That's why it makes it so difficult, because it's not like we happen once every few days. It was like once maybe a month or something like that. So then you're trying to remember, like, did he do this the last time? I think he did.
Hmm.
you know but over time I did see what I thought was a pattern, and so I said, all right, well, we're going to do our best to make sure that we narrow down even those longer times, even further, so that they happen more infrequently, because every now and then I get it, like it's a rainy day, work's got, a big busy schedule. So he can't go outside. You can't, I can't get away from my desk. I can't run him over. One of the things we love to do is to take him over to Chick-fil-A when we
Hmm.
don't have any play dates or anything. Just take him over to the local Chick-fil-A, and then I can work and he can run around and play, like physically play, and get interaction with other kids that he doesn't even know who they are. So that's one of our favorites. All right, cool. So we've got this worked out. We know how to manage our screens by just limiting. So what kind of I don't want to say, processes, because that sounds too formal. But
Ooh.
what kind of strategies do you use to make sure that screen time is limited? You just put the phone down and say, "Look, get off your phone. It's dinner time." Or do you guys like say, "Hey, we have a designated time. This is screen time for everybody." Like, any particular strategy?
So the only screen my son actually like has that is his Nintendo Switch.
Mhm.
So that's the only thing he really has super access to. We don't put a lot of like the big games that he plays, like, he's a big Roblox kid. Roblox is on my Xbox, which is on the main living room TV.
Mhm.
So, it's really about he doesn't have anything other than his Switch, so he has to get permission to use anything else. Hey, dad, can I play Xbox?
Mhm.
Can I have your tablet to do stuff? And then, just as well, we're conscious of the idea that, okay, he's been playing all morning on Roblox. Hey, hop off. Well, we're going to do some reading practice now. We're going
Mhm.
to do some math. Hey, we're going to shut this off. And hey, I got this cool documentary on dinosaurs we're going to watch for like an hour, hour and a half. Just,
Mhm.
it's just being conscious that he's been on the screen for a while and we need to break up the monotony and make sure that he gets off it. And it's offering something fun that he wants to do. Sometimes we go to the park, sometimes we go to the beach.
Mhm.
It's making it still exciting for him so that he's like, okay, forget the screen. I want to do this next.
Right, right. I got you. Not like, hey, go sit down and read in your book for an hour. It's
Uh huh.
independent. It's independent reading time.
Yeah. Yeah. He's,
So,
go in your room and go use your imagination time is absolutely a thing in the Halafka household.
gotcha. Yeah, we have to trick ours every now and then, because if you're just like, hey, go play by yourself, it he seems confused. Like, how do I do this? And you're like, well, go play with some of your toys, and seems confused. But then if you say, go clean your room, then sometimes I walk in and the room isn't clean, but he's playing with his toys, and I'm like, well, that'll work for now. We'll catch up on the cleaning here in a little bit. So I
Hmm.
just take it when I can get it. It's so funny. Okay, so what strategies do you use personally?
It's kind of the same thing. It's just being conscious of it. Like, over the last year or two, I've kind of was realizing that, man, I spend a lot of time on my phone, on
Mhm.
my tablets, and it kind of really hit home when my son was asking me to do something with him, and I was like, "Hold on, but I'm doing this right now," and he was like, "You're always on your phone."
Mm,
Bing was okay. So now I'm not being conscious of the fact that I'm not paying attention to him because I'm focused on this here. So
right.
it's looking at like, hey, what's going on around me right now? Does my wife need me? Does my kid, need my attention here? Is he going to probably want my attention? Because I get the difference between a want and a need there. But,
Mhm.
I try to give him that because, hey, I get maybe, a couple hours with him at night after work until my days off come. And then depending on what days they are, I may be having to run around and do things with. So, I try to get them to participate, come along. Hey, we're going to the store. You're coming grocery shopping with me.
Mhm.
Hey, we're going to the car place to get the car done. We'll show you some things there. I try to bring them to my office, show him what work looks like for dad, so
Mhm.
he knows like, hey, dad's gone all day and I don't get to see him. This is what dad's doing. So,
Right.
it's not like a mystery game for him.
It's also good encouragement not to grow up too fast. Um,
For sure.
this is what you want? You sure?
You
Wouldn't you
sure?
rather be playing with your toys right about now? I'm just saying. Daddy's doing
Eh,
spreadsheets. I'm telling you, you wanna play with toys. So, so it's interesting that you mentioned that because, so I work from home, and so I have a lot of flexibility in my schedule, which, I'm not on meetings all day long. Most of my work is tech work, so I don't necessarily have to interface with people on the regular throughout the day. There's just a few meetings here and there. So if I need to step away or something like that, I can. And then my wife's a real estate agent, so her schedule is, varied but also flexible as well. And he goes with us when we do things. Like she'll take him out. She's going to a property to take a look at it. I think she's even showed some properties and taken him with her, and then he's helped show him. I mean, is in as much as is appropriate for the law because he's not a real estate agent. Just want to put that out there. But like he goes with us to think, to if we go to an event, even if it's an adult event, if you will, like meaning not like adult is in rating, but as an adult is in like what are they interested in, right? Like when I go to the Libertarian Party events, he obviously doesn't care about that kind of stuff, but he tags along. And I think that helps reinforce getting away from the screen time, like getting out and doing things, experiencing different environments, different situations. And I feel like that contributes to what you were saying at the very beginning. We said, hey, we get a lot of compliments about our child. He's so well behaved. Um, do you feel like did you do that on purpose and say we're going to expose him to all this stuff, or was it just like, hey, come with us? You might as well see this. So I'm going anyway, right? Like, was it just happenstance, or was it a strategy on purpose that you started taking your kid everywhere?
I mean, kind of, why can't it be both answer, I guess.
Sure.
I mean, part of it was, hey, you kind of need to come along for various reasons. Either we don't have anybody, or this is just the situation, or,
Mhm.
sometimes it's like, hey, I'm going to take you along because I want to bring you because I think it would be cool for you to get around to. So, I mean, some of it's strategic. Like, I know, like you said, during like Libertarian Party conventions, I know there's going to be people like you who are going to bring their kids. So,
Mhm.
of course, I'm going to bring my kid. He
Right.
loves seeing all the other kids. He remembers everybody. He asks about them. He's like, hey, when am I going to get to see my friends from that last time we were at the hotel again? Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
he really likes coming out to it. And I mean, he's been in campaign photos. He's been used in campaign materials.
Right.
So he has a blast. And it's fun for us because it's an experience for him.
Hmm.
This is kind of why I do all this extracurricular stuff. Is I'm trying to not only show him that there's a good way to go about things, but that
Hmm.
there's a better life and opportunity if you want to work for it. So seeing other people out there, it's good to expose him to other adults. He's used to other people giving
Hmm.
him like, hey, don't do that. Hey, do this. Hey, come over here. He's learned to discern like, hey, how to kind of work through dealing with strangers and,
Mhm.
dealing with other kids he doesn't know and learning to share and all these other little things. Like, I've had a lot of really proud parent moments, taking
Mhm.
him places with me. And I mean, just right now, like he goes to work with my wife every day right now. So I mean, he's in an office, literally watching how a business is run, which, is kind of how I was raised. And I think it's great for, his mentality and ambitions down the road, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, I agree. As an interesting comment here. I throw it up on the screen when I find my mouse here. So time surfing alien says I kept mine busy with sports, band practice, etc. We do the same. We're not in band practice yet. We might get to that in the future. But he does soccer and he enjoys robotics at the YMCA. He really likes robotics actually a lot. And there's an instructor that comes in and he's got like all these Legos, and then just he all the kids sit around a table and they put they're special Legos, like in a sense. I mean, they're still Legos, but they're designed specifically to build things, and then they connect to motors and stuff like that. And so and then some of the motors can even connect Bluetooth to like a tablet. It's really really neat. And so they can just like build an arm that swings around, or certain things that do things that have sensors and all this stuff. So we keep them really busy. Some stuff is children stuff, and then some stuff like you is up. Dad's going here, you're going with dad. You know, and so he just we drag him along. I don't have any campaign photos, but he does appear in some photos with libertarian stuff. Just because he's there and we're a team. That's how it works. So I want to dig into more about life balance, because I think that's the most for you. I think this will be a very interesting conversation, specifically because you have a job, you have a family, and your job is like 40, 50 hours a week or whatever. Or maybe I think you said 50, 60, but whatever it is, it's like upwards around the 50-hour range. Then you're running for office and you're the chair of a state party. So there's a lot of different like context there in a sense, right? You're constantly shifting your context, the frame of mind that you have to be in. So what kind of strategies, what kind of things do you do to help maintain focus on all the different areas for which, because I mean, even like the candidate versus chair, those are entirely different roles and there's a different mindset there, right? So how do you manage how do you juggle all of that well?
I mean, probably the biggest thing is shout out to my wife, Laura, who does a yeoman's amount of work maintaining house and home for us. I
Mhm.
mean, people at work, in the LP, I was like, man, I don't know how you do all this. I don't know how you're going to work and you're at home and you're doing this. And I'm like, thank my wife.
Mhm.
It really, it comes down to it is, kind of like you said, this is it's a partnership in a household. I think I actually saw you post something earlier this morning, DL, where it's not or happy wife,
Mhm.
happy life. It's happy house, or happy spouse, happy house.
Mhm.
And it really is. It's a team effort, when you're a parent, especially in a two-parent household. So, I mean, how do I do it? It starts with my wife being a cornerstone and a rock and foundation for me, being able to handle as much as she does. And then it's just being mindful of knowing when I have to be in certain places and being in the right place at the right time. Like, work is static. I always know, hey, from 7 in the morning on Monday through Friday till 7 or 8 p.m. at night, I'm going to be in my office. That's a
Mhm.
guarantee. On the weekend, on Saturdays, I know I'm going to be here from like 7, 8 in the morning until 6 or 7 at night. So
Mhm.
once again, these are all like I know I'm going to be here. These are pre-planned out. So work is the first priority because, like I tell people, if I don't have a job, I can't take care of my family. I don't have a house. I can't put food on the table. So
Mhm.
work is always a big priority for me. That's going to be top. So
Right.
after that, it's layering in everything else because I know that's an easy static thing to plan around. So now it's okay, where can I plan in family time? Where can we, where do I have house cleaning time, shopping time? where are we going to get stuff done? When am I going to spend time with my son and do, schoolwork because we're homeschoolers? When am I going to do fun time with my son? So it's not all about, all work and no play makes, my son a dull boy type of stuff.
Right.
And then it's after family. Okay, now we're gonna layer in all the extracurriculars. So okay, LP stuff. Well, hey, I know Sundays we always are having our meetings. That's a static time. I'm gonna
Mhm.
clear out a couple hours ahead of that to pre-plan for these meetings there. I'm layering in maybe, 45 minutes an hour a night to, hey, let me go through emails, let me answer messages, let me make sure that the house isn't burning down, so to speak, type
Mhm.
of stuff there. So it's working off of those static points that are fixed and then layering in everything else that you need to do and understanding that you have to work off of deadlines. If there's no deadline, then you kind of got to figure it out and
Mhm.
place it in somewhere where you're going to have the time to get it done, but you don't want to let while still not letting things kind of get away from you, so to speak.
What's your calendar life like? Do you use one?
I do. I've actually started using a calendar because there's just so like I tell people there's so much going on with me anymore. Like I'm getting requests for media attention. There's stuff going on at work that I got to be a part of. I've
Mhm.
got travel that I've been doing recently for personal reasons and family and whatnot there. So yeah, I've actually started using a calendar, but I mean it's pretty busy, but some of it is okay reminders for stuff. So it seems more busy than it is. Like, hey, on this day, you're going to want to probably remember to do laundry. Hey, on
Mhm.
this day, if the sink's getting a little full, you're probably going to want to do dishes. It's just, it looks busier than it is, but yeah, it can get a little crazy sometimes.
Right. Yeah, I've been forced to learn how to use a calendar, um, because my wife lives and dies by one, basically. Like if it's like if she's doing something, it's on her calendar, and then she gets really annoyed when I'm all like, "So what are you doing today?" And she's like,
It's
"On the
on
on the
my
cal
calendar.
on the calendar,
Yeah.
which I know you have access to. So why aren't you looking at it?" And then I'm like, "Hey, I've got a podcast tonight or whatever, if I'm doing something out of the ordinary." And then she's like, "Why is it not on the calendar?" And so she's always giving me a hard time because we're both very, very busy. And so to keep our schedules in line, and then of course you add in my son who on certain nights he goes to BJJ. He's also got soccer. He's got what else has he got? Um, he's got soccer. He's got the robotics as I mentioned earlier, and then I think once a month we take them either to Lowe's or Home Depot for their builds because they have this like little free build, which is really great by the way. If you have a kid about our age, I don't know if you've done that.
Those are
Fabulous.
those are awesome.
Oh,
I
it's
love
great. They
them.
just give them a little they're like, "All right, we're gonna make a flower pot today," and then they give them like a little it's almost like the packages of, um, uh, what are those cars? Is it derby car? No, no, what's that? The little
Ma-
cars that you would build and then you
the
would just
Matchbox racers.
and you would run them down like you did it in Boy Scouts.
Yeah, it was
What's that called?
like Matchbox Derby.
We called it something else, but at any rate, the gist being the just being he's got all these things going on. He's got to be at certain places at certain times. I've got to be doing certain things at certain times. I'm either got to be at my desk working or podcasting or maybe in a meeting. I've got to go somewhere, meet somebody, all these things. So I was like forced to use a calendar and I'll point out as my executive assistant points out, your executive assistant makes you use one too for this show because she's like, hey, who's the guest? Why aren't they on the calendar? So like I got two women standing on my neck, right, about
Mm.
calendars. So I was forced to use one. So I was just curious about your calendar life, like if you've really been
I
putting in.
Funny enough, I have the same situation between my manager at work who's like, "Why isn't it on the calendar?" And then my wife who has her own calendar on the fridge, she's like, "You're going somewhere. Why isn't it on my calendar?"
Right,
And then I have my own calendar, so I'm like, I am beholden to the calendars, all of
right.
the calendars.
Yep, yep, absolutely. So there's actually, and I'm not promoting it necessarily, by the way, but I've seen something. I've been eyeballing it. It is it's some like family calendar thing. It's a digital device that you can put like in your kitchen, and you can sync up everybody's calendars, and everybody can come in, and it's like a big it's like a 22-inch monitor or
Oh
something like that.
God.
And then all it is I think all it is just a calendar. And so everybody can like look at the calendar. And I was like, man, that's really, I mean, it's a bit expensive, so I don't know that we'll get one, but it's an interesting idea. And I'm like, I'm like, I don't know. Like that'd be nice to come down in the morning, just look at a monitor and be like, here's what I got. By the way, Pinewood Derby, that's the term. So
Pinewood Derby. Ah,
thank you, time surfing alien. Yeah, that's what it was. That's what I was trying to remember. I was like, I can't remember the name of it.
yeah.
But yeah, there's all these things for, competing interest for our time, and then there's free time, which really isn't on my calendar. How do you manage your free time? Because I don't know how you are, but sometimes I just like to do things on the spur of the moment. I'm like, like I get on social media and I hear some thing and I'm like, that's a very interesting topic. I'd like to learn more about that. So maybe there's a podcast, an hour or 2 hour podcast that I got to try to figure out when I can listen to it. Or maybe I want to go and do something or whatever. How do you manage your free time? Do you have designated free time?
No designated free time. It's kind of like catch it as you can, so to speak.
Hmm.
So, I mean, when it's there, I'm really, it's just more of like a decompression time. Like, okay, I'm gonna catch up with like little silly things. Like, if you would have came in before the show and you would have seen me in like the background there, like I'm on my phone looking through like, okay, what's going on with the markets. I didn't get to catching up on the news. Like
Hmm.
I grew up a kid who was very big on like watching the news. My parents made an emphasis on reading the news. Current events were big in my house, as topic discussions. So still to this day, like it's important. Like I was also raised like, hey, pay attention to the markets. Like that's gonna, really tell you if you're going to be doing your job's going to be doing well, if you're going to still have a job, maybe you should look for a new job, like type of
Hmm.
stuff. So, you know, my time when I do have it, it's free. It's really, that's where I end up on social media sometimes, which you're
Uh-huh.
seeing a lot less of it there. And it's
Right.
because I'm focusing kind of like you were saying, like I want to learn stuff now. Like I want to kind of get back into I'm having a little bit of a nostalgia run right now where I'm like,
Mhm.
going back to things that I used to enjoy, like older, like I have an old PlayStation 1 that my mom got me when I was 6, 7 years old that it's still functional, attached to
Right.
my TV. If I get a little free time, hey, maybe every once in a while I'll fire that up. I have a couple old computer games from when I was a kid that I really liked playing. Maybe if I got like an hour or two, or I can't sleep at night, but it really, it's been focusing when I do have it because I don't have any structures. Like, okay, what do I want to look up today? Do I want to learn something like
Mhm.
some nugget of knowledge, Jeopardy question answer type of stuff? It's nothing ever serious, but just something. Hey, it might come out good on a trivia night if I ever go out.
Right. I gotcha. Yeah. Like, lately I've been interested in using Obsidian, to help like take notes and just kind of do research on different things that and I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a new app and it seems to be pretty popular. And so like this morning, while my son was eating breakfast and I was downstairs and I was listening to it, and then I was listening to a video, like 12-minute video or something like that. And I just would pause it at certain times, but like I was using that time, to kind of watch this video. So it's kind of like, for me, free time, like there's no scheduled free time here per se. I just kind of where things fit in, and I try to be cognizant and say, like, okay, I want to watch this video. It's about 12 minutes. When can I fit that in? Right.
Yeah,
Or I want to watch this video. It's an hour and it requires, some significant amount of attention. Some things I can more casually listen to, depending on what it is. Right. Like if I'm listening to somebody's podcast just because, I don't know, it's been a buzz, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, what have they been talking about? But I'm not like, I got to focus heavily on it. Then maybe I listen to that while it's in the background doing something else, whatever. But then there's other times I got to figure out, I got to strategize, when
hmm
I kind of fit all this in, which makes it very difficult. I'm trying to figure out, can I build in like time for everything? But then I'm afraid that I might go too crazy with the calendar. And I've done that in the past where I like try to put down like every minute, like, all right, from 7 to 7:30, I'm going to do this. From 7:30 to 8, I'm going to do this. And I try to block out those times. And then I just get stressed out because I always get behind in the first couple. And then I get
Mhm.
stressed because everything's behind. And then I don't, so that's been the big hang up with me and calendars. So I was just curious of what your strategies are. So let's talk more about like balancing as a dad, and then like, are you seeing your son yet? And it may be early. Are you seeing him adopt some of these behaviors for managing time, or is it a little bit early yet?
A little bit, I guess. Like, he understands that there's like a time to and a time not to, which
Mhm,
is I think the most important thing, that like we can have fun. Like he's always like this isn't fun. Like,
mhm,
hey, bud, I need you to clean your room. Well, that's not fun. Hey, we got to go to the grocery store. Sometimes he's like, hey, I don't think that's going to be fun.
mhm,
You know, he understands that, like, hey, some things are not always going to be fun, but we got to do them. Like, I tell
mhm,
him, like, hey, but I don't like work isn't always fun for me. Like, I work a customer service job with the general public there. I'm dealing with people all day long for 11 to 12 hours a day straight. So,
mhm,
hey, not every interaction with the person is going to be fun. But,
mhm,
he's kind of learned that, hey, there's things that need to be done. And while it may not seem fun, we can find ways to, make them as enjoyable as we can for ourselves. So,
mhm,
I mean, I don't know if he's really taken on some of the strategies that I have just quite yet,
mhm,
but he understands that there's gotta we have to do certain things. Like, I always used to, when he was a little kid growing up, 2 3, you know it used to be something where we would do dishes in the morning. I would tell him we have to earn our breakfast,
mhm,
and then I would make breakfast for us. And that mentality now is, he kind of understands that, hey, there's certain things that need to be done before we can do the things that we want to do.
right.
And as a result, he doesn't argue with me as much to clean his room that other kids. People are surprised, like, oh, he listens so well. Like, yeah, because we explain the concept of why we're doing all of this.
Right. Yeah, I think our son he's not adopting like the strategies in the same way, but you can see where he's learning that this time I should do this. So like when he comes home from school, the first thing he does is he takes his shoes and he puts them over where the shoes are supposed to go. We're working on him taking on his because he likes to take his shoes and socks off and run around barefoot. And so he will we're working on getting him to take his socks and put them in the hamper rather than wherever he happens to be when he takes them off. That's a work in progress. Um, and
That's
then
a
he'll
work
get
in
his
progress for all of us.
right, and then he gets his lunchbox out, also a work in progress. He's pretty good about that, but he'll take his lunchbox out, put it on the counter so that we don't let it sit, all day long and all night long and then realize it. So he's learning that there are certain times to do certain things. And then we also, to assist, we use an Alexa to like give reminders. So like in the morning, we've got a reminder that goes off to like take vitamins, reminder in the evening for him to take a shower, stuff like that. Cause he can point to the clock and he can kind of tell you time, but he doesn't really understand time, like he has no concept of like what a half an hour is. And I don't know when kids get that, but he definitely doesn't have that right now. And which I'm sure you can identify with this. He has no concept of time when you're like, "Hey, we got to leave in like 3 minutes. Please put your socks on." And then he slowly gets his socks on because he has to like show me some cool thing that he just realized, or he has to run around and do something, or he's being a monster, like literally like rawr, being a monster. And like, like he's doing all these things to interject in between, and you're like, hey, put your shoes on. Hey, put your shoes on, right? And so he has no concept of time. And the worst thing that I've found is when we're late, because that no concept of time that really comes into play because you're like, "Hey, we're late. We got to hurry." And he's like, "What does that mean?" You're like, "That means do
You
it."
need to go now.
So it's so funny. Um, but so this is interesting. So let me ask you: you work all day with the public. which means you probably get irritated. And there's a certain point where you're like, I'm tired of people, like all y'all. A meteor needs to hit this planet because y'all got me angry, right?
I
How do
I
you
plead the
decompress
fifth.
before family? How do you
For,
decompress before family?
I first off, Dio, I can neither confirm nor deny those allegations at this time. These are all speculations, rumors, and innuendo. I am not
I mean,
going to
I've worked with the
participate
public, so I know.
rumors and innuendo, but I'm going to say that your assumptions are, strongly objectively in the right direction.
Mhm,
That said, I the public, it's people that are going to be irritating. You just don't bring that home. Like,
mhm,
this is kind of, I hate to use the term, but like, this is a safe space for me. Like, I come home and like, okay, like, my kid's going to like me just as much, regardless of what somebody said to me or about me earlier in the day. My
mhm,
wife's going to like me or not like me, depending on how depending on different key factors, just as much or just as little as, regardless of how somebody felt about me at my job. So,
mhm,
I mean, it's also too is that my wife worked for a long time with the general public before moving into office work. She gets it completely.
mhm,
And, my kids, that's one of the few, things I'll say that are a consistent positive all the time. Like, I
mhm,
come home, I'm the best dad. I'm the
mhm,
best dad ever. I'm so great. Like, he's just gonna gas me up. So like, sometimes it can be irritating. Not everybody's going to be a nice person or be super friendly, and
mhm.
you deal with that. There, hey, sometimes you just get cursed out and you accept it and you move along. It's part of the
Right.
job. It's why I get paid what I get paid. I deal with it. But
Mhm,
it's go home. I call my wife. Tell her about how horrible everybody was to me for that day, and then
right.
we get home and move along. Hey, the dishes still got to be cleaned. The dinner's still got to be cooked. The laundry still got to be laundered. Life doesn't end because somebody had a negative opinion about me. And this goes regardless for whether it's my income earning job or my volunteer work.
Mhm,
People are going to have strong opinions about me. I
right.
said it to my wife the other night here. It's like, look, I get it. If some people, want to paint me as a villain, that's fine. If I'm the villain in your story, that means I'm the hero in someone else's. And,
Mhm,
you can't just, you're never going to make everybody happy. It's an impossibility. It's an unrealistic expectation. You can't satisfy everyone. And the person who's trying to make everybody happy, DL, like the saying
mhm.
goes, usually makes nobody happy.
Right. So you don't do anything specific to, like, decompress ever? Like, I've heard people say, like, "Hey, I listen to some music, I go sit by myself, listen to some music, I sit down, I have a glass of wine, I read a book," whatever, like, there's all kinda just to kind of, I guess, break up or get your mind away from everything. You don't do anything? You just kind of it sounds like maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm misunderstanding here, but it sounds like you're saying, "I level set ahead of time, and then I just compartmentalize," I guess?
A little bit. It's
Mhm,
also too, it's, that comes back to that, like, you know, unstructured free time when I do get it. That's just like I said, it's mostly decompression time. Like, okay,
mhm,
come home, catch up on the news, catch up on what's going on in the world, catch up on all of my sports teams, because I'm
mhm,
still a sports, I'm still a Philly sports nerd. So, it's just, take that maybe 30, 45 minutes on my lunch break when I get home from work, after I put the kid to bed while my wife's in the shower and it's just me sitting on the couch with the dogs, take that time to myself to just kind of like, okay, let it go from the day. Maybe I'll throw a little music on,
mhm.
once again, sitting alone on the couch. What else am I going to do with myself? Maybe once it fire up the PlayStation, fire up the Xbox,
Gotcha.
but really it's this. It's I come back to things that make me happy, which is
Mhm,
the volunteer work. For as much headaches as they give me sometimes, I love it and I enjoy it. Like it's a pleasure to do. Like it's
mhm.
going Tuesday nights with the podcast I do with Swamp Creatures. That's get together with the boys and have a couple drinks and talk about how good things are going in the world or not.
Right,
It's kind of going back to what's important to me, which is my family and my friends, so to
right.
speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think for each person, number one is like identify what is a priority, what is important. And then, you know, making sure that you never lose sight of that, which I think sometimes you can, right? Um, I think it's easy to, I think that it's easy for people to get busy in their lives and get so focused on all the stressors around them that they forget about, like you said, what are the things that make me happy? Think about those, right? Or engage in them if you can, right? Like, so lately I've been kind of slowly getting into gardening a little bit. Mostly I just want to grow some of my own vegetables so that I quit throwing vegetables away. So I'm kind of picking out the ones that I tend to leave in the fridge too long, like mushrooms and stuff like that. So I'm trying to, the ones that easily go bad. And so I'm like, oh, maybe I can just grow some of my own. So I've been kind of experimenting just casually on the side, but it's something that I find enjoyable. And so like I've got some books from the library on landscaping and gardening. Landscaping is another thing that I'm enjoying in my yard. It's kind of like almost like a hobby in a sense, right along with woodworking. And so like I've got some books and things that I can just when we have free time, hey, you know what? I got a few minutes. I got 10 minutes before I have to, or 20 minutes or whatever, and I don't have any particular plan. Let me just open up this book and thumb through it a little bit and just kind of casually read. And that's kind of like I take these opportunities to try to decompress when I can, specifically because I'm not one that's going to build that into my schedule so well. So I've got to find those opportunities. And it sounds like you do something similar. You just like, hey, here's an opportunity. I've been
Hmm.
meaning to watch this video real quick, or I've been, I thought about making this post the other day, but I didn't get to it. So let me make this post now. Whatever the thing is to kind of just break away from what you've been doing and kind of get a little bit of a moment. So that's pretty cool. I like that. All right. What else have we not talked about when it comes to balance that we got to get out here?
Mm. Think, well, we talked about getting away from the screens. I think that's so super
Yep.
important for just
Yes.
yeah, just parents nowadays. Don't set the bad example for your kids being a screen monster. Um, Prioritizing work, volunteer, like just do what you love. Like if
Mhm.
you're not loving what you're doing, it doesn't matter. Like like DL, you do podcasting, I do podcasting. Like we both do volunteer work, we both work
Mhm.
jobs. Like if you're not doing something that you're really enjoying or loving, like you probably like I'm not saying stop doing like don't quit your job and go, move to Bora Bora tomorrow, but like look for stuff that you enjoy in your life. Like that's I think the biggest like when it comes to balance, if you're doing things you enjoy, you never have to break away from it.
Right.
Whether it's volunteer work, whether it is your job, whether it's, what you're doing with your family, go out and enjoy it. If, your thing is going to the beach, go to the beach. If you're somebody who works a whole bunch and, you got you got a great job though, then hey, work those hours. Like
Mhm.
it's all about doing what you love. I see a lot of people nowadays, whether and it's a lot in my professional life, a lot in my volunteer life, where they're not completely happy with what they're doing, but they're there because reasons.
Right.
If I'm not here, somebody else won't, the job won't get done. Or, hey, I'm just trying to look for the next paycheck here.
Mhm.
You got to really have a love for what you're doing and a goal in your mind. And if you don't have those two things, then you need to reconsider what you're doing, no matter what it is. So,
Right.
I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway from all this when it comes to balance is, find the things that you love and enjoy doing and go do them. If it's professional, go find something that you love in your professional life, go do it. If you're doing volunteer, political,
Mhm.
charity work, go find things that you enjoy that you're passionate about, like pursue your passions. That's going to
Mhm.
make you feel like a more fulfilled person, and you're going to be able to bring that back to your family and contribute more to your household as a result. I think that's why, like, for me, like everybody always talks about, oh, your son's always so happy. Like my in-laws used to nickname him Never Not Smiling because as a baby he would just constantly like he always had a smile. He was always in a good mood. Like all my cousins and my in-laws talk about how like, oh, he's always so like, he's always so pleasant. I don't like my kids just they're screaming and they're crying and they're throwing a fit. He's so pleasant. He's so pleasant.
Mhm.
And it's just, I think it just comes from in the house. Like he sees that like we do things that we enjoy. We're happy. It's like I said, I don't really have to ever break away from anything too much because it's just transitioning. Like, okay, I'm out of work. I like what I do. Now I'm coming home. I'm going into volunteer work. I love this stuff. Like,
Mhm.
I do it for free because I love it that much. I, this is why I'm doing it. And he sees that and he's like, okay, dad really loves this. And this is what
Right.
he's doing it because he loves it. And, my hope is that, well, kind of like we've talked about today, is that he'll pick up on that and kind
Mhm.
of learn that do the things you love and you don't ever have to break away from them. You can do them all day long. You're never going to run out of energy. It's always going to be enjoyable. And guess what? Not everything is always going to be fun,
Mhm.
but some things have to get done to go back to having fun. So
Right.
I think that's the biggest takeaway is, be passionate about what you're doing, pursue those passions, enjoy, love what you're doing. So that way, the balance really it will always be there. If you're loving what you do, you're not looking for balance. You're looking to find the next thing to transition into that you love to do.
Got it. Sounds good. All right, Josh, I'm going to put you backstage, close out the show. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. It was great
Yep.
having you. It was great talking to you. So give me just a moment. Let me close out the show. Folks, hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you found it informative and inspiring. Um, be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. For Eastern Time for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Also, while you're here, make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, or if you prefer my Rumble channel, you can go to youtube.libertydad.com or you can go to rumble.libertydad.com. While you're there, let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. Last but not least, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great weekend. But for now, I'm out.